So welcome to Farming Studios, and I'm back with another tutorial. And in this one, we'll be making a robot in Blender. And so in this course, what you guys are going to learn in this one is some modeling skills and how you can just gather up things to make a complete character. So without wasting much of the time, let's start. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to add. Actually, I'm going to add something that looks like a circle, but I'll pick a UV sphere. Then before changing anything, I'm just going to reduce the number of segments and the number of rings to 25 segments and 12 rings. Then actually, I'm going to scale this on the Z like this up to this level like this. Okay. Then I'm going to go into edit mode. Then I'm going to click the limit selection to visible off. Then I'll turn on my proportion editing, and I'm going to put it to smooth. So I'm going to change my concentric contract selection to vertex select. Then I'm going to press 1 on my numpad to go into my front view. Then by pressing A, I'm going to deselect everything. And by pressing B, I'm going to box select. And I'll select the top part and I'll scale it. Okay. So I'm going to scale it up to there. Then I'm going to press Control minus, and I'm going to scale that again. Again, I'm going to press Control minus, and I'm going to scale that again. And I'm going to press Control minus, and I'm going to scale that again. And finally, I'll get something like this. And this is what I want. Okay, so let's get back to edit mode. And let's go back into edit mode again and remove this and select using our face. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make a robot that actually looks like it has some parts on it and just on the other way. So by doing that, I'm going to box select, and I'll press shift, and I'll be able to deselect, press C and see the circle outline like that. See, do that, and shift, and then you can actually add these because we actually need this one. Okay, actually we don't need this, so let's just move these faces, face slowly, and make sure you do everything accurately because we don't want to mess up into errors as we go. Okay, so after deselecting everything here, and we'll remain with the bottom part, I'm going to press P and selection to actually separate this from the mesh. And I have two objects with me right here, the bottom part and the upper part. So I'm going to scale the bottom part on the Z axis like that, and I'll grab it on the Z axis slightly down up to there. Okay, so that looks fine. I'll press 1 on my numpad just to add a variation to my character. So I'll scale it slightly in a X, and I'll have something like that. Okay, so now it's time for action. Let me smooth out both of them like that, and it's time to add some features that will actually give me some impression according to what I'm making. So I'll click this, I'll import the circle, then I'm going to rotate it on an X 90 degrees, and I'll grab it on the Y like that. Then I'll actually scale it, and I'll grab it here, and I'll actually scale it, and I'll kind of set it where I would like my eye to be. and this is perfect. Okay, so I'm going to grab it on my Y like that. Okay, then I'm going to go into my edit mode and I'll press vertex mode, then press F to fill up all the vertices, then extrude it inwards like that, and that looks fine. So I'm going to go into my object mode and scale this up and grab it on an X like that. Okay, so it's time to add a modifier. So let's go ahead and we're going to add some mirror modifier to this. So I'll add mirror modifier and I'll click my pencil here and I want this object to be the mirror. Okay, so after doing that, let's add some texture, or should I say meanwhile some diffuse paint. So let's add pure white and see how that looks. Let me just turn on my environment lighting and we have something that looks like this. Not very good, right? Okay, so let's work on the ears. So I'm going to go into this other layer, then I'll press Ctrl S and cursor to center, and I'm going to actually add a circle again. Okay, then I'm actually going to rotate it on my Y 90 degrees. Okay, then I'll go into edit mode and I'll press F to fill up this. Then I'm actually going to scale it in like that. Don't forget to turn off your proportion editing because that will mess up. So I'll scale this up like that. Then I'm going to extrude it slightly, then extrude and scale it again like that to make some sort of some robot ears. Then I'll extrude it like that again, and I'm going to extrude and I'll scale it again slightly. Then let me try to scale it a little bit down, then extrude it on the X again like that. Then you see we get a perfect ear shape. So let's go ahead and go into object mode and scale it on the Z like that to have some sort of ear shape. So let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks fine. So let me try to bevel that up by adding some bevel, and you see we get something nice. So let me try to tweak things up here and see what I get. So the more segments, okay. Let me try to add 2 segments. That looks fine. Then maybe the profile. Okay. So that looks fine. Maybe a 0.5 will be better. Okay, that looks fine. Then material, -1. Okay. So let me try angle. And none of that looks fine. So weight, vertex group. Vertex slightly looks better, but not that much. So I'd rather go with none. And I would actually go with offset. Okay, so let's get back. Let's remove our bevel options, and now we can move this, or we can just press shift and grab it on an X like this, then grab it on the Y, or should I say on the Z, then slightly lift it, press 1 on your numpad to go into front view, then grab it on the X. Then you can actually tweak things up to put it in the right position. So that looks fine, though I slightly need to move it on my X. Okay, like that. press enter, and that looks fine. So let me rotate this on the Z slightly, and you see that looks better, and it actually works. Okay, so one more thing, rotate it on the Y like that, then grab it on X once more. Okay, that looks fine. Let me see how that looks like. Okay, that looks fine. So now let's actually give this a material of maybe some sort of gray, greenish gray like that. Okay, that looks fine, though the green is just way too much. So let me try to further take it here and let it be more brighter. That looks fine. So I'll click here and I'll actually press Shift S and cursor to selected. Shift A. I'm going to add a cylinder, and I'll scale it down, and I'll grab it on the Z like that. Okay, so let me just scale it up here and grab it here so that it can look like an antenna. Then okay, everything looks fine. Go into edit mode and select face mode, then select the top face, and we can start to extrude to make the antenna type of arrangement. So we're going to edit mode, then we can actually extrude this up. Okay, then rotate it on the X, sorry, on the Y, then extrude, grab it on the Z, rotate it on the Y, then extrude it, then grab it on the Z and grab it on the X. Okay, just try to position things up in the way you want them to be, and that would be better for your own use. Then let me extrude slightly and I'll scale that up. Okay, so now when I go into object mode and then I smooth shade out this one, and the same for the ear, and let me see how that looks like, and let me give it a color of black. So I actually need this to be black, and you can see what we get. Okay, so our robot starts coming up very well, though not that much. Okay, so let's press Shift and press Ctrl J and add a mirror modifier to this. Go to mirror modify and make this as your mirror object, and let's see how that looks like. Okay, that's looking like a robot, though not that much. So click the eye and go into edit mode, then press vertex mode and click these vertices up to here, then turn on proportional editing and smooth. So I'm actually going to grab this and see what shape I want to get here. I want to get this kind of shape. Okay, so I'll grab this on an X and see what I get. Okay, that looks fine. Let's go back into edit mode and select this face and press I to insert, and that's fine up to there. Okay, so now I'll press Ctrl plus and I'll deselect the mid one, and I'll just add another color, and I'll kind of give it a gray color because Okay, something like that. I'll assign and see what we get. Okay, we get good looks. And it's time to add a circle. So let's actually insert this. Or maybe what we can do is go into object mode, cursor to selected by pressing Shift S, then Shift A, you can insert a circle. Then you can rotate it 90 degrees on your X, and you can scale it in to fit your eye, and you can grab it on the Y like that. Okay, so let's go into edit mode and press F and give this a very white color, which should be shadeless because we have no light bouncing in the eye. Okay, go into object mode and see what we get. That's fine. So let's go back into edit mode. Then let's just extrude this. Okay. Then select this face and insert another face like that. Maybe scale it even down. Okay. Don't forget to turn off some proportion editing. So I'm actually going to undo what I did. Then I'll turn off this and let me scale. So I'm going to insert. Then I'm going to scale it up to this size. Then I'll actually grab it here. Okay, so let me give it a green color also. So I'm going to add green color, something more of a green. Okay, something more of a green like that. Then inside of this one, I'm going to scale it. Oh, let me press Ctrl Z and assign that. Then I'm going to insert another one, smaller, and I'll actually grab it on an X and grab it on a Z, and I'm going to give this a different color of white. So let's see what we get here. So let's change from Blender render to Cycles, and let's have a test render to see how our robot begins or how it looks like. First of all, let me duplicate this on both sides. So I'm actually going to go into modifiers, then I'll add a mirror modifier, then I'll use this as a mirror object. Then I'll set my camera and I'll set things up like that. Okay, maybe adding a plane will make it look more realistic and some sort of real. So I'll move the cursor to the center, then I'll add a plane and I'll grab it on the Z and I'll scale it up. And I'll actually scale this up to this size and move it slightly on the back. Press 0, go into camera mode and set things up. So I'll scale this. I'm going to scale this on an X. Okay. So now let's have a test render and see what we get. So I'll put this at 100%. Then I'm actually going to render. Okay, so let me see my samples because it's really rendering slow. Oh, I really have high samples though. That is fine. Let's just give it a while to see what we got. And as you have seen, we have something that looks like this. Jet complete. So let's go ahead and add some adjustments. So I'm going to go into edit mode. Then I'm going to edge select this one up to this one. and up to this one again. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on proportional editing, and I'm going to use smooth. So I'll actually grab all these like that on the Z. Okay, so I get something like this, and then I'm actually going to scale it up. I'm actually going to decrease on this one. So I'm going to scale it up like that. Okay, so let me turn off proportion editing, and let me scale this separately like that. Then I'm going to extrude this on the Z, and I'll scale it up inside like that. Okay, so that looks fine. Maybe even slightly like that, and scaling it again inside, and I get something that looks like this. Okay, now let's go to the bottom part, or maybe let's try adding some more subdivision for us to get some better look. Okay, that looks fine. Maybe 2 or the 1 looks fine. Okay, so that subdivision is fine, and our character starts having the better looks that we deserve. Okay, let me do the same for my ears. I'll add some subdivision. Okay, let me uh remove this first and apply the bevel. Then I'm going to add the subdivision. Maybe applying the smoothie shade. Okay, guess I'll have to leave it like that. So let me grab it on the Z. Then let me scale it up to this size. Okay, then let me go into edit mode. I'm going to select this one vertex here and enable proportion editing. Then I'm going to scale everything up. Going to scale everything up like that. Okay, that looks fine. Object, then I'll scale it on the, let me scale it on the Z. Then let me grab it down. Okay, up to this level here. Then I'm going to add some subdivision to it. Okay, then going to edit mode, then I'm going to select all these edges up to here. All these edges. Then I'm going to actually extrude this. I'm actually going to extrude on the Z. Then I'm going to scale it in. I'm going to turn off proportion editing, then I'll scale this in like that. Then I'm going to E again. Then I'm going to scale even more. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is I'm going to extrude for the last time, and this time it will go inside. Okay, that's fine. And let's see how that looks. Okay, So we get a better robot than the first render that we got, and I love how this one looks like. So it's time to improve on the mouth. So I'm just actually going to scale this on the Z axis like that. Then let me also try grabbing it down like this. Okay, this looks fine. Maybe taking it slightly up. Okay, then slightly scaling it in and going to edit mode, then select the faces that will actually present the mouth. So all around all these faces are presenting the mouth. So they actually have to be separated and they have to have a black. So I'm going to go into the materials, then I'll add a color and I'll just give it a white, and I'll add another one and I'll sign it there, and this one will be a black. Okay, so let's see how that looks like. And you can see it's not complete because we need to do the same to the other one. And I'll go into edit mode and I have to select these faces. Okay, let me press C and see the faces that get selected like that up to there. Then let me add a black material to suit the mouth. Assign it there and let's see what we get. Okay, so now we get a non-complete black character. So I'm actually going to remove this to a different layer by pressing M and moving it to this layer so that I can select my all faces nicely and easily. So I'm just actually going to assign this and go back into object, then view my all layers, and you see I have a complete black mouth like that. That actually looks great. Okay. So now let's just go in details and try to add some stuff to this robot. So I'll click the head and go into edit mode. Maybe let me just select some faces here, like this one and this one. Yeah, maybe let me just try adding some color and see how that would look like. Maybe a green and something green, and let me assign it there. Okay, maybe that's just too much, but something like that. Then the intensity, just turn it down and down. Okay, that looks fine. So let's see how that looks like. Go into object mode. Okay, and you can see it looks fine. So let's go ahead to the belly maybe and go to edit mode. Maybe just making some sort of cool button somewhere here. I'll scale this on the Z. Okay, so I'm actually going to extrude this slightly like that. Slightly. And I'll make sure I add a loop cut by pressing Ctrl R just here. Okay, to give it a sharp edge like that. Then let me select this face and maybe scaling it in and out like that. Then inserting another face here then actually extruding it slightly and giving this a green color, maybe just like the color we gave to the head. And now let's see how that looks like. Okay, maybe scaling it in the Z like that and see how that looks like. Okay, that looks fine. So let's go into object mode, and the next thing we're going to do is maybe let's try to work on the arms. Or maybe let's try separating some stuff here by actually control plus. What did I do? What did I do? Okay, so let's go into edit mode, and as this one is selected, press control and plus plus plus. Okay, so our button is selected, and now let's grab it on the X. Okay, that's fine. Let's see how that looks like. Okay, that looks fine. So I'm going to select this face, this face, this face, that face, and this face, that face, that face. Okay, I'm actually going to select a bunch of faces right now. Uh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 2, 4. Okay, so while these faces are selected, let's slightly extrude all the faces that have been extruded and see what we get. Okay, that looks fine. Let's just try to add a loop cut exactly where our cut has been made. Okay, so let it be somewhere there. Same with here. Control R. Sorry, what did I do? Hit Control R and hit a loop cut right there. Okay, so let's go into object mode, and you see we have something that looks better there, and it actually gives us more shading of the character. So let's go into edit mode, press 1, so that we can see if our character is on straight, and you can see it's not actually straight. So let's try to rotate it into the right direction. So press R and Z and scale it there like that up to there. Okay, and that looks fine. Okay, so now let's work on the arms, and just slightly scale your ears like that and grab them on the Z and grab them on your X. Like that. Then rotate it on the Y. Okay, so now let's see. Just move it 1 pixel on your X. Oh, that wasn't 1 pixel. That was more than 10. Okay, that looks fine. Then let's see what we get. Okay, so our character looks nice, though not that nice, because we're still working on some parts and we have a long way to go. So I'm going to press Control plus, and I'll actually scale everything up in here, and maybe straightening it up like that would be better. Go back into object mode and see what we have. Okay, that looks fine. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on the arm, and the arm will be kind of simple. Yeah, it will be kind of easy, and we're not going to stress much on the arm. Okay, so we're not going to stretch much on how we're going to make the arm, because the arm is easy and we're not going to stress much. So let's just get a test render. That's important. I always have test renders when I'm working to see how good my character looks. So let me render that. Okay, so this is our test render and it looks fine to me. So let's go back into our 3D view and work on the arm. So I'm going to go in this layer, then I'm going to insert actually a cylinder, and I'll reduce the count. The vertices actually will be reduced to that. Maybe 15 is fine. Okay, so let's go in, let's rotate it first on our y-axis 90 degrees like that. Then I think let's scale it on the x. Okay, so that's the arm. Then let's go into the edit mode and let's give this brother arm a couple of loop cuts, maybe about this 44. No, that's too much. So let's give this maybe let me try 12 loop cuts. 14. Okay, so I'm going to put 22. No, that's not fine. Maybe 44. Okay, 44 loop cuts are enough. Though I have to delete some number of cuts slightly like that. Okay. So I've never tried to see how this works, but this is actually a good animation that can be done. And I've just experimented it right now because I've never actually seen this. So actually maybe you can change this, and maybe by giving it different variations, you see you get a better animation. Okay, so this looks fine, and it's actually important to always learn things when you're actually okay. So let's go add in a loop cut and press 40 loop cuts and enter them up. Then let's go ahead and select face. So I'm actually going to press this face and okay, actually press 1. Maybe we can actually try to make this work easier by using our skills. So just make sure everything is lining up in the same category like that. Press everything like that. Okay. So let me start with the third one. Okay, so I'm actually going to speed up this work here because you guys have to copy the way. Then after 2, yeah, okay. Okay, so when you select something like this, then I'm actually going to add vertex group. Okay, and I'm actually going to delete some vertices here, maybe up to here. Faces, okay, face. Then let me select this one. Okay, this is fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually extrude this, and I'm actually going to scale it up, not much, but I just have to make sure things get scaled up in the right direction. So I'm going to grab this on X to set the scale correctly. So okay, that looks fine, though something ain't right. So just from here, I'm going to try changing it to InVideo Origins. Then let me try to scale things up. And you see I get a better scale if I change it to InVideo Origins and now median. Okay. So the first thing is I'm going to give this a gray color. Maybe something like this. Okay. Something, maybe something gray. Then I'm actually going to give this something even more brighter than the gray. I'm going to assign it and I'll get something like that, and I'll go back into object mode. Then let me try to subdivide this and see what I get. Okay. Okay, this doesn't look bad and it looks fine to me. So actually going to smoothing it up and change this to 2. Okay, so let's go back and see all what we got. Press 1, then grab this actually on your okay, I'm really sorry. So grab this on your X and rotate it on your Y 90 degrees. Then grab it on your X again, then rotate it on your Y 90 degrees, and then scale things up like that. Okay, so I'm going to set this here and I'll grab it on the X till it goes in up to there. Then I'm actually going to do one thing. Press Ctrl S, cursor to selected, then add something like okay, let's just add a circle, then rotate it on the Y 90 degrees, then scale it up, then grab it on your X, then go into edit mode and vertice, press F, extrude, scale, grab it up, extrude, scale, grab it on your Y, then hit another extrude, and finally scale it in till it finally touches that. Then go into object mode, then actually add some subdivision modifier, maybe even up to 2, then smooth shade, then grab this and just try to center things up. So scale it on your X, then you grab it on your Y like that, press 1. You see it kind of looks big, so let's try to scale everything up to that level, then grab it on your X, okay, like that. Then maybe scaling it slightly on your X and grabbing it like that, okay, on your X. Then let's try moving this on your Y, okay. So this looks fine, and it's time for us to group these two. Control J, then let's add some mirror modifier to this. Wow, what did I do? Let me add some mirror modifier, and I'll use the body as my mirror too. Actually, I'm using the wrong mirror, so I need to use this. So something is wrong here. Let me try using this. Not really. Okay, let me try mirroring things up in the Y. Then maybe using the I. Okay, the best thing I can use is this. No, guess for this one, I just have to shift D, then rotate on the Y 180 degrees, then grab it on the X up to here, then rotate it on the Z to fix it up like this. Okay, so just make sure it lies straight. Okay, that's fine. So finally, let's touch the last thing that we need to do, and I guess we'll be done, and we'll be concentrating on the last thing that we're going to do, and that will be the boat. Okay, so I'm actually going to slightly carry this down, then shift S cursor to center, then I'm actually going to add the circle again, then I'll grab this on the Z, then I'll scale it until it goes in like that. Okay, so then I'll change into edit mode, then I'll select all the vertices, then I'll extrude this on a X, on a Z, sorry, then I'll scale it slightly, or I'm actually going to invert it, then I'll scale this on the Z, and I'll scale this up, and I'll extrude this on the Z, and I'll scale this up. Okay, then I'll extrude it again on the Z, then I scale it up, and least but not last, I think, let me just try to scale everything up. So I'm going to press Ctrl plus, and let me try to scale things up like that, then Ctrl minus, then maybe just extending things up like that. Okay, so that looks fine, and I'm going to extrude it on the Z, then I'll scale it in like that, and I'll E and scale it in and grab it slightly on the Z. Okay, so this looks fine. Let's go into our object mode, and first, before we go into our object mode, I'm just kind of going to add some subdivision modifier, and I'll smoothen it up, and let's scale it slightly in like that. Okay, and now let's go ahead into edit mode and Ctrl plus 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 and scale this up like that. Okay, press A and go into face mode and just select a couple of every after 1, 2, 3, 4. Just select 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 4. Okay, then 2, 4. This one, and this one up to here. Then 2, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for this one, I'm just actually going to select both of them by using the shift key and the control. So I have a space of 3, 2, and here I have to make sure I have the same. So this looks fine. Then let's go into our materials tab, add a new material, then add another one, and this one will be actually a dumb brown, or should I say kind of green. So I'm going to assign it there and see how that looks like. Okay, it doesn't look that bad. So Let's go ahead. It has a green. Okay, maybe something like this. Let me see how that looks like. Okay, that looks fine. And let me also try to give this some brown color like that. Okay, that looks fine, guys. So before we have our last test render here, let's just try to do some cool stuff. So I'm actually going to add my UV sphere, and I'm going to scale this up like this. Okay, and that. Then let's get some particles on this. So I'm actually going to give it some reddish greenish particle. So I'll actually go for this type. Then I'll add some new particles like that. And I've actually seen new options. Hair net, emit hair. Let me see. So particle setting, add air from sheet. No seams were defined in the shape. Okay. So we're actually going to experiment on that one more, but let's just go ahead and add some particles. Then I'm actually going to add a couple of particles. So I need more to define. Okay, let's just put 5,000 particles. And I'm going to use vertices for volume and random. Then I'm actually going to use emitter geometry, but a mass. I would rather use a higher mass. Okay, then maybe let me try to see some uh okay, actually on the top here you're actually going to specify what type of particles you're having. So let me do that. And you see I have small particles there, and that's not what I want to have. I want to have something that looks like okay, you guys are going to understand what I mean by going to the display, how particles are drawn, size of particle on viewport. So let's see that and press Shift Z and see what we get. Okay, so this is what I was looking for. So let's keep reducing that maybe to 3 pixels or even 1 pixel in one. Then let's start this. Shift Z. Then okay, that's not enough though. You guys can improve anything that needs to come out. So the size of the particle should be reduced maybe to 0.01, and let's see how that looks like. Okay, so that looks fine though the foggy is too much. So let's try reducing the size of our UV sphere. Back to the scale of X on the 0.5174, and on the Y go on the 0.5174, and jump to frame 1 and go to frame 40 and see what we have. Okay, so that looks fine. Then let's set our circle. Let's just add some collision to this. So go on the physics tab, then add collision. Then on the particle system where it's written permeability, because what this actually means is that it gives you a chance that the particle will pass through the mesh. So I want that chance to be 0. And on the soft body and cloth, the outer face thickness is fine, and this should kill the particle. Okay, so let's go back here and play our animation, and you see we don't get any animations passing through our body here. Okay, so I can still see some problems on the particle damping. So the amount of damping during particle collision should be 0.3, and I want this actually to have amount of thickness to the surface collision maybe about 6. Then go on the rigid body and actually put this to objects is directly controlled by animation system. Objects is directly controlled by the simulation result. Okay, so actually I'm going to remove the rigid body and maintain the collision and the amount of friction during, okay, let's use 0.5 and restart our animation and jump to frame 40 and press Shift Z, and that looks better because I don't see any extruding parts. So I'm actually going to reduce this even smaller like that. Then I'll restart this and let me save my project because I've been running without saving it. So I'll actually save it, then I'll go here on my HP. Then you actually select the folder where you want to save it. I actually have my own folder, so I'll give it a name of robot.blend. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is let's just clean up the background before we are done or before we go any further. So I'm actually going to go into edit mode, and I'm actually going to subdivide this. So I'm actually going to add maybe approximately subdivide it twice. Okay, then let me select the vertices that I have here. Then I'm going to turn on proportion editing and I'm going to use smooth. Then let me grab this on the Z to get that nice looking curve. Then turn off proportion editing and grab it on the Z like that. Okay, press 0 on your camera view and go out of object mode and scale this on the X. And let's see what we're going to get. And you see we have a good background and we'll have something that looks better but not perfect. So at this stage, if you have some HDRs that you're using, you can actually import them. But as for me, I'm just going to select a certain texture that I'm actually going to use. Or should I say I have an image that I saved for this purpose. So I'm going to go right into my documents folder and I'm going to use the image that I reserved. Okay, so I actually had my PNG and let me go in all my folder, then go into Project 3D. Then I'm actually going to select textures. I'm going to go in Black Hat and select textures. Then let's use a texture that would make sense having a robot on it. So I have a couple of textures. You're just going to choose the right one for you. And I found it. This is the one. So let's go back in Blender, then press 1 on your numpad and let's UV map this up. So I'm going to split my screen into 2 screens. I'm going to get rid of the properties tab, then I'll turn this into the UV tab and I'll open a new image and I'll name it background like that. Then I'll press OK. Then I'm actually going to go into edit mode, press everything, press U, then smart UV project. So I'm going to add a 0.9 and a 0.0 for the area. Then that looks fine. Then I'll open up the background image, and actually I'm going to go in. I'll actually change from object mode to texture paint. Then I'm actually going to go, in fact, this is a new tool that has come with Blender and it's really working. Okay, so I'm going to use a diffuse color, and okay, that's fine. So that'll make everything go black. Then texture, you have new. Okay, no, that's wrong. I'm actually looking for stencil painting, so I'm going to search for it right here. Okay, so tiled stencil. Okay, so what this actually does is it actually allows you to add some image to your, what can I say? Okay, it actually imports uh some image that you have. So let's turn this into the properties tab like this, and go into your properties tab so that you guys can understand what I'm talking about, and just add a new texture and select an image. Then I'll come here and I'll actually grab my image and I'll drop it there and I'll open the image. Okay, that's fine. So I'll go back into the UV node image editor, and I'm actually going to click on this, and let's see what I get. So actually something is wrong. Okay, the background is the one I'm using, so just for testing sake, I'm going to try to paint things up, and you see I get a very bad image here. Okay, so let's go back and press Ctrl Z to undo what we did. Then I'm actually going to change this to the diffuse node that we had. Then I'll select background again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let me try to paint this. No, I didn't expect to get what I'm getting, so I have to go back into my properties tab, and while selecting my object, I'm actually going to add a new texture for this and cancel this. And let's hope I still have my image. Okay, so I only have one texture for this, and that's the one. So let's go back into our text paint, then change this back into the UV node editor, then select the background. And when you paint, you see nothing happens because you select your brush and select that one, and nothing still happens. Then you go back into the background one and go down until you find where it's written stencil paint mode. Then for the image or for the texture, you're actually going to choose this one. Yeah, so you can actually scale this by Control A, or you can actually change the transform type here. Actually, what you can do is you can actually change this view from view to paint, and you can see what we get here. So how can I scale this one up? Maybe A, Z, X. Okay, then Shift on the X. Okay, like that. Then fix everything up and let's see how that looks like. Okay, so that's fine. So okay, so I'm actually going to increase my size of the brush. Then I have to change a couple of things here to actually paint on my object. So let me do that and do everything up like that. Okay, so this looks fine. I'm going to stencil it up. More brighter and brighter. Okay, so I'm now going to cancel the stencil and go back into object mode and turn my properties tab on back and see what I have here. So actually I supposed to see the image that I just painted right there. So okay, you see everything is flipped up, but we don't mind because that's what we get. So if I use UV sphere, then change this into global like that, and maybe into tangent. Okay, that's not fine. Into normal, maybe into object. Oh no, I would rather go for global on tangent. The blue looks good. Actually love to render out this part. So select the particles and just change their lifetime to actually maybe 4. Yeah. Let's see where that takes us. 4 is low. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So how to distribute particles, jittering amount to. Okay, so we are done for this tutorial and I hope you guys liked it and learned a lot. So we started rendering this, or should I say we started modeling this from the beginning until the end, and I've shown you guys every step I've taken to render out and to make a robot in Blender as easy as what we have done and as straightforward as it was. Okay, so if this video really helped you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button because that would really help me. So in the next series, probably next week, I'll be actually rigging this character so that we can add some animations to it, and I would be really glad if you would join it and learn on how we can rig such characters in an easy way to tune up your progress in Blender. Okay,